take shape? Let's find out. And every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. She's a financial advisor as well as the mistress of coin, no other than Miss Amanda Cassar.
Thanks for having me back, Daniel.
Welcome, welcome, Miss Amanda on Abstract Essay. And yes, thank you for being my guest again. So tell me, what are the things that I miss? Can you please tell us to our audience and listeners?
Sorry, what are the things you missed about me?
Yes. What
Oh,
did I
goodness.
miss about you?
I'm a mum, I'm a grandma, I'm loving being part of an international community of financial advisors where I get to go speaking around the world and talk about everything from financial abuse to charity and philanthropy right through to leadership lessons.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Amanda. And today let's talk about leadership. How do you personally define leadership, and how has your understanding of it evolved throughout your career?
I think leadership when I was younger was something that I looked up to, maybe world leaders, and thought, the politicians of the world who are, the making changes, the Mother Teresas, they were the real leaders. But I think as I've gotten older, I realized leadership can be thrust upon us at any time. And although we think of some people as being born leaders, I think some people just step up when the need is there. So, yeah, it's not something that I think is a set in stone. I think people who step up when there's a need are also fabulous leaders that all our communities need. You don't have to be a shining light on the TV or a world class politician to be considered and look, some of them probably aren't real leaders these days. So, the
Yes.
guy who steps up and rescues the family instead of sitting there watching it on his phone or videoing it, he's the leader. He's the one taking the lead in a situation to make it better instead of stepping back. And I think it takes a particular type of person to get things done. And it can be anybody.
Indeed. And is leadership something people are born with, or anyone become an effective leader with the right development and experience?
I think anyone can step into leadership roles. I visited some African countries like Malawi and Uganda with a charity called the Hunger Project many years ago. And it was about learning leadership from some of the poorest people on earth. I mean, you wouldn't go looking in an African village usually, I think, for standout versions of leadership. But these people had experienced generations of poverty, and when this particular group came into the area, they said, if it's going to be, it's up to me. Are you, ready to take that journey and want to step into your own leadership? And the amount of men and women in those communities who went, you know what? Nobody's ever rescued us. It's time to rescue ourselves. I think that's a beautiful form of leadership. So, look, can leaders be made instead of born? Absolutely.
Yes, definitely. And Miss Amanda, how you define leadership in financial world or financial mindset?
I think leadership with finances comes down to your management of money. Often we are conditioned by what our parents believed about money, what we heard them say when we were growing up. Might be anything from it takes money to make money, or money doesn't grow on trees, or you've got to do bad things to get ahead. Whatever it was our parents conditioned us with, I think leadership with finances is sitting down and asking, what do I believe about money? Do those lessons still serve me? Or do I want to create some new paths with money? What do I wish I'd known? What would I like my children to know? There's so many people now who share their wisdom that is free on the internet. We don't have to pay thousands of dollars for courses anymore. There's so much tuition available. So leadership is taking control of our own destiny and working out what we can do. Does it mean cutting back on some expenses? Does it mean, tightening our belt for a little while till we get ahead? Does it mean not buying things on credit all the time? So personal leadership with finances is really important.
What's the difference between being a manager or being a leader, and can someone be one without the other?
I'd rather you were both. um, yeah, I
Definitely
think there's
both.
some really poor managers out there who are definitely not leaders at all. Um, I think leadership is about bringing the best out in people. A manager may often walk ahead and want you to follow in their path, where a leader will try and bring everyone together with them. I think it's a much more collaborative approach where you try and bring out the best in people, where management can often be seen to be talking down to or telling people what to do. So, look, can you be both? Absolutely. But a good manager should also be a really good leader.
Definitely. Who has been the most influential leader in your life, and what specific qualities made them exceptional?
Oh, that is a really hard question. um, I was having a talking with an Australian Olympian swimming champion a little while ago, and I said to him, "Did you have heroes growing up?" And he said he did, and his son did, and he very um, excitedly got to introduce his own son to Usain Bolt, who was an absolute hero to him. And I said to him, I've never been someone who's had heroes. I said the leaders or people I do look up to are people who've overcome adversity and stepped into their own power. So, say somebody like Oprah Winfrey, maybe she grew up in a very poor environment. She lost a child when she was a teenager. She had to forge her own path. She had to break through barriers as an African American woman getting into the media. Um, Somebody in Australia like Terry Irwin, who married the lovely Steve Irwin, who was the conservationalist. She's been through terrible heartbreak, but her leadership has seen her continue Steve's journey and that into her children and now grandchildren. So people who overcome adversity and step up instead of becoming bitter and twisted and victims, they're the style of people that I admire. I probably couldn't name too many people in my own life who I adore or who've mentored me super closely that I admire, but there's certainly people whose characteristics and traits that I definitely look up to and, would aspire to be a little more like them when the way they handle adversity.
Very well said, Miss Amanda. Very well said. And let's talk about the core leadership qualities. What are the non negotiable qualities every leader must possess, regardless of their industry or the size of their team?
I think they need to be flexible people. I don't think staying rigid and not moving. I think we can be true to a cause, but when we're dealing with people, people are really tricky animals. We're strange, we're quirky, we've had these different upbringings and ideas, and it can be hard for a manager or a leader to understand and work with all that. So I think being flexible and adaptable in different situations is really an important quality for a leader. And although I don't love the word, we heard it so much during COVID, being able to pivot. As much as we plan for things and have goals and put things in place to get where we want to go, being able to be changeable and adaptable when plans, get blown up as they do. What did Mike Tyson say? Everyone has a plan till they get punched in the face. So I think, being adaptable in those circumstances and, being true to the cause is a very fine quality for leaders to be able to display.
How important is vulnerability in leadership? And what does authentic vulnerability look like versus oversharing or appearing weak?
Ah, what a great question. I think vulnerability is to do with being authentic. We all have a bad day. The old thing was very British, keep a stiff upper lip. You don't bring that into the office with you. Um, Whereas sometimes the fact that we're human and we are dealing with adversity in our lives, that does need to be factored in because we're all just people who have to, everyone's dealing with something. So being a leader and being vulnerable, I think, means being open to discussing what's going on with your team, having examples in your own life. I know a lovely advisor in the UK who's quite a leader in the community there, was very open about his discussions with anxiety. And it was beautiful to see at a conference someone come up to him after he did a keynote and said, "That's just what I needed. I was about to throw everything away. I didn't want to do this anymore. But because you were so authentic and real about your own struggles, instead of just running the highlights reel, that made such a difference to me, and I'm prepared to keep going and serve my clients." So I think it's a beautiful thing to be able to be open and honest about our own struggles. You mentioned oversharing. I think that's very different to, you need to know every little thing that's ever happened to me. That kind of oversharing isn't necessary. Yet it's certainly some people's style. So
Yes.
yeah, I think it's a fine line between able to recognize what somebody's going through, be empathetic, share our own stories, without giving everything away. It's all right to keep some stuff back, but I think having the ability to share our downsides as well as our up is very valuable.
Miss Amanda, emotional intelligence is often cited as a critical for leaders. Can you break down what this actually means in a daily practice?
Yeah, emotional intelligence, I think, comes down to being able to be empathetic. Um, we often hear about IQ being so important that you have to be really smart. But I think that old expression, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, is very true as well. You can be
Yes.
the smartest person in the room, but if you're unable to teach or reach people, it makes no difference at all. So the emotional intelligence of being able to relate to people, draw people out, answer their questions. I've actually got a tissue box that sits on my table for client meetings because people open up and share and become very vulnerable. And it's a beautiful gift that people are comfortable enough to be able to do that around you when they're sharing, their intimate stories. So uh, it's a beautiful place to be able to share those stories. I love collecting people's stories and hearing where they've been and what they've been through. And again, I think that overcoming the adversity, coming to the other side, and understanding that asking for help isn't weak. It's a strength to be able to put your hand up and say, "I'm struggling with this. Is there anyone out there who can give me a hand?"
What role does self awareness play in effective leadership, Miss Amanda, and how can leaders develop deeper self awareness?
Self-awareness is so important. um, I've got a little tool that I use mostly when things go wrong. I should probably use it more when things go right as well, where it sits down and works out what went wrong in that equation. Like, why did I lose that client? Why did my team not get back to that person on time? So, what went right might be, we have this lovely client who trusts us with their business. What went wrong? We didn't process their request in a timely manner, something like that. So, being able to learn from those experiences, and I think self-awareness, being able to go, the buck stops with me, even if the team dropped the ball. The self-awareness is, what we need to do better. Can we tweak our procedures? Was someone having a bad day? Should they have said, "Look, I can't get to this today. Can someone else in the team help out? I think being able to acknowledge what we've done wrong is also really important. I also don't think we probably celebrate our little wins through the day. I mean, we'll often go home and go, oh my God, I was so busy today. I can't remember what I did, but I got through so much stuff. And being able to say, you know what, I actually cleared an inbox of 200 emails, or I got back to those 4 people that it was really important for me to do today. I don't think we celebrate those things either. We just put our nose to the grindstone, keep on going every day without celebrating the achievements that we do. So acknowledging our faults and being able to celebrate the wins along the way, I think is beautiful part of self-awareness, and acknowledging that we're constantly growing and learning as well. I mean, we never stop. So if you're the smartest person in the room, you need to get into a different room.
Definitely building and leading teams, Miss Amanda. What is your approach to building a high performing teams, and how do you identify people with leadership potential?
I think building the team is also about ongoing learning. You know, there's a quote that's been around for a long time where a lot of business leaders say, why should I invest in my people? I'll probably put all this, information into them, build them up, and they might go somewhere else. And on the flip side, what if you don't do any development and they stay? So, making this choice to invest in your people is really vital. I think the other part of leadership is not telling everyone how to do the job. If every time they come to you with a question, if you answer it, they're just going to do what you say. If every time they come to you go, well, how would you handle that? If I wasn't here, what would you do? Those sort of questions can help your team to step up into a leadership role and can actually free you up from constantly being harassed by your team going, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Because you're training them to step into leadership roles and become leaders themselves. So I think giving people the ability and the safe place to make mistakes and be able to fix their mistakes is a really important way of growing leaders in your team.
What is the biggest mistake you see leaders make when dealing with underperforming team members, Miss Amanda?
Yeah, I suppose communication is one of our biggest downfalls. We're very reluctant to have difficult conversations. And sometimes a very small misunderstanding can get blown all out of proportion. I've seen one case where an action was misconstrued, and years later they ended up in court cases. And when it came down to what the problem was, it was a simple misunderstanding about what the original act had been that just spiraled. So I think we should all be better with communication. If a team member is underperforming, perhaps pulling them aside and having the discussions, that being vulnerable and open. There's a beautiful phrase that psychologists use a lot: I feel when, because. I feel a bit sad that you're not doing your job as well as you could at the moment because it seems to be letting the team down. I feel let down, upset, angry, whatever the emotion is when X happens because of Y. So it's a very non-threatening, non-challenging way of being able to approach a team member and have a conversation about what's going on. Obviously, I also believe in hire fast and fire faster when things don't go well, but at least, being human and open to discussion. Some people just aren't going to perform in the roles you want them to. They can't, they won't, they choose not to, whatever the reason is. And you need to move on very quickly and find someone who will do what's needed. But open, honest communication. I mean, one of the first things I learned when I went coaching is sometimes that the people who get you to where you are now are not the people who are going to take you to where you need to go next. So, people come into our lives for a reason and a season, and sometimes they move on and sometimes they stay.
Yes, definitely. That's how life goes. Can you share a time when you face a significant leadership failure? What did you learn, Miss Amanda?
Mine was probably also to do with a team member. I I'm one of those people who believes if you invest in your team, they'll look after you. And I think I overinvested in someone, and instead of showing an attitude of gratitude, they became incredibly entitled. Whatever I did was never enough. And looking back, perhaps I didn't keep the boundaries as clear as they should. I felt I was doing the right thing at the time, but it's one of those areas where self-awareness comes into play, analysing the situation later and going, well, do I set boundaries? Do I stay with that style of leadership? Is it what I still believe? Again, I lost that team member after over 9 years of service, but beautiful things have happened since. So although it seemed terrible and tragic at the time, there was silver lining. I've got two beautiful team members in their place who go above and beyond, and incredibly grateful for the opportunities they've got. So yeah, I think analysing those things, times where things go a bit pear-shaped, is where all the real lessons are.
The real lesson indeed. And Miss Amanda, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my Abstract Essay is already in fifth season, Abstract Poetry in second season, and my book 101 Review in fifth season too, Comedy 101 in second season, and my Food 101 in fifth season as well, Geography 101 in fourth season, as well as my movie 101 review and music 101 and love letters, and my baby podcast law 101 and mental health 101, as well as my Bible verses 101, science 101, and sex 101 in its second season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Amanda, what's one piece of leadership advice you wish you'd receive earlier in your career, and what would you tell emerging leaders today?
Oh, be a sponge. Soak up everything you can. And when you are learning the lessons from the greats, also remember that you've got your own style. So pick bits and pieces from the people who are prepared to share all their wisdom, but also go, you know what? That one's for me. That's not for me. I love that idea. I hate that idea. So that you can learn your own leadership style and grow into your role. But look, definitely never stop learning.
Stop learning, don't stop, and learn every day. Miss Amanda Cassar, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you
Thanks
please
for having
invite our
me.
listeners to support your business, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Sure. If you want to connect on LinkedIn and have any other questions, Amanda Cassar, the financial advisor from Australia, not the yoga instructor from America. And I also have a book called Financial Secrets Revealed, available on Amazon or where you get your good books. So please feel free to download or have a read of that too.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Amanda Kessler, because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering books to come, more and more empowering leadership will rise, and for sure, more and more empowering advocacy to come. So, Miss Amanda, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Daniel.
More people, see you soon.